the 0-1 teams that can least afford to fall to 0-2. 0-2 is it's not an impossible hole to dig out of, but you're a week into the season, right?
Right.
But you started on a Sunday for most of these teams.
Yes.
By the next Sunday, you're 0-2. That's a problem.
Right.
And which teams in your mind, which ones scream out, there's no way they can recover from 0-2?
Well, okay, let's get some teams off of this discussion right away. I mean, the Dolphins, for one. I mean, I don't know. They can't afford to go 0-2 because
they want to be 0-2.
Well, because they're no good and they have no chance of being 1-1. They got New England, so that's over. So let's just end that conversation.
They're trying to be 0-2.
Well, I mean, the coaches and the players are not right now, but you're right. I understand the overall organizational philosophy is about setting them up for the future. So, okay, then they're wiped out. They can't afford it because they're not good enough to overcome it. Anyway, the Buccaneers, I look at them as one team out there. I go 0-2. Jameis Winston, the perception around that team, there's a lot of young players. There's not necessarily a proven commodity leadership on that team that way. I look at them going 0-2 and going, see ya. They might salvage the season to a degree, but the playoffs are out of question. And I think the same with like the Giants and the Broncos too. I look at those teams and go, they go 0-2. The perception around their team is going to start to become a reality. Oh, this is a rebuilding year or a bridge year or things like that, to where I just look at those handful of teams and go, it's over if that happens. And I'll throw the Redskins in that conversation as well.
Well, and I see where you're coming from. You're taking it from the
I'm just getting the ones of like, they're not good enough
teams,
to even overcome it. It's over if they go 0-2.
Yeah. And once you just accept that,
right.
Yeah, you know what, we were right. Everyone was right. This isn't our year. But I'm going to flip it around more from the standpoint of the teams that are contenders, or at least supposed to be.
Okay.
And for the Browns, this is critical to get this win at the Jets on Monday night,
yes,
Chris,
it
because
is.
after that, it's the Rams, it's at the Ravens, it's Monday Night Football at the 49ers, it's the Seahawks, it's a bye week, so they can't lose then. It's at the Patriots and at the Broncos in back-to-back weeks. I mean, the schedule does not soften until week 12 when they play the Dolphins.
No.
So
I hear you, Mike.
They fall to 0-2. This thing can go sideways very quickly for the Cleveland Browns.
And that's what's awesome about the Monday night matchup, because to flip that over, along the context of what you're talking about, I'll go with the Jets right there in that conversation too, because of the same issues too. The schedule. I mean, if you go, the Cleveland schedule we know is the real. If you look at the Jets schedule, at Patriots, at Eagles, Cowboys, and then Patriots again, and at Jaguars, they lose this week. Yeah, there's going to be pressure. They're playing teams the next 4 weeks after this that are better than them. Maybe they can win some of those. I don't know, but they're definitely not as good as the Patriots twice, the Eagles, or the Cowboys. I know that.
Hey, I want to stay in the AFC North as well, because we were talking earlier about the Steelers and how they looked so bad against the Patriots. Now they've got the Seahawks coming to town. Now the Steelers should win this one, but if they stumble, and it's not unprecedented, they haven't been the juggernaut at home that they used to be.
No.
Then they have a trip to San Francisco. Who knows what happens there? Then they have the Bengals and the Ravens come to town. They go at the Chargers. I don't know what the Steelers are going to be this year. After seeing them look as bad as they did against the Patriots, I am revisiting everything in the AFC North now, and maybe the Ravens are the dominant team, and maybe the Steelers are going to be right around 500, and I don't know. Is that good enough? No, not in Pittsburgh. 500 is never good enough, especially in a year where there was this vibe, this kind of quiet confidence that they were going to come together, and the sum of the parts was going to be greater than whatever that cliche is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something like the sum of the parts or the whole or whatever. The Steelers were going to be better this year. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And it just didn't even come close to being what we thought it was going to be week one. They lose this week, and there's going to be some folks in Pittsburgh who are, looking at the Penguins hockey schedule and counting the days for the NHL season to begin.
No doubt. Well, the pressure is going to be, enormous. It's going to be on Mike Tomlin, because there's a group of people out there that just don't want to see, as far as Steelers fans, that just don't, whatever. They don't want to deal with the Tomlin era anymore. I don't get that. They're going to, the boo birds, the people who don't like Ben Roethlisberger, that's going to continue. And then to what you're saying, like, okay, yeah, you lose. Now you're 0-2. And, you get your grand prizes. You get to go out to the West Coast the next week and play the 49ers in their home opener, where, that stadium and team's going to be juiced up and ready to go. So I'm with you. They will be a huge media talking point next week. If they start out 0-2, they're going to be under a microscope probably more than any other team in the NFL.
And by the way, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
The sum of the parts, yes.
That is a saying that goes all the way back to Aristotle.
Right.
So, just so we're clear.
You don't want to run roughshod on that saying there.
The whole is the problem is if you start with the sum of the parts, you really can't finish it. You have to start with the whole. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Aristotle.
Thank you.
And whoever put that on online so I could find it quickly on Google. All right, who else do you look at 0-1 and say they can't afford to go to 0-2?
Well, I think the same thing with just a little bit the Chicago Bears, where I look about it and just go, okay, really underwhelming performance week 1, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Now you're going, and everybody we know, as we were there last week, and Coach Dungy said it on the show many times in the pregame before the Packers game. It's everywhere we were last week. Can Trubisky do it? Can Trubisky do it? Is our quarterback good enough? Can Trubisky do it? The kicker, Trubisky, the tricker, I mean, that's all you hear. If they start out 0-2, it's just going to start to put that bad perception around the team as well. And especially it's playing Vic Fangio, and that's just going to add to it. Oh, we don't have Vic Fangio anymore. We're not the same. And I just think that it's going to put Trubisky, Matt Nagy, and that offense under much scrutiny if they go 0-2 and don't look sharp again this week.
That is such an intriguing matchup this week.
Right.
The Vic Fangio defense. Vic Fangio knows the personnel in Chicago. He'd been there, and this is a tough spot for the Bears, and I agree with you. They fall to 2-0. Either the Vikings or the Packers, barring a second straight Week 2 tie at Lambeau Field between the Vikings and the Packers. One of those two is going to be 2-0 with a 2-game lead over the Packers a week into the season. That's not going to be good for the defending NFC North champions in Chicago. So they need this one. And based upon how the Broncos looked on Monday night, I don't know, maybe they can get it, right? There's been this assumption the Broncos are going to be better because they have a coach that the players believe in.
Right.
That doesn't mean the players are actually good enough. And I think we saw that on Monday night.
Right. I agree. Or fit the scheme yet, right? I mean, that's the other thing you got to take into account. It takes a little while. When you go from a 4-3 defense to now, we're a real 3-4, there's difference in philosophy as far as the players you need to make that work. And I don't think the Denver Broncos have it. But, Mike, I really – yes, the Bears should win this game, and they got to be prepared to win like an ugly defensive battle if that's the case. They just got to win games right now and let their offense find their footing. Don't just come out and go, "Oh, I'm Matt Nagy and the Chiefs, and I'm going to come out with plays and we're going to go freewheeling all." Know your football team, know your quarterback, know where you are as the state of your franchise. If you got to win a game 16-13 out in Denver and depend on your defense, be willing to do that, but don't let your offense screw the game up just because of pride or you want your stats to look good when it's all said and done.
There's another team we haven't discussed, Chris, that I think is very desperate for a respectable showing, if not a victory.
Yeah.
Primetime Sunday Night Football at home against the Philadelphia Eagles, because the Falcons looked awful week 1. You've got an owner who has to be commencing that process of moving his finger toward the blow everything up button.
Yes.
And he's resisted in recent years, and he's trying to stay the course, But when you get embarrassed like you were week 1, and then you come back to your stadium that is still fairly new, prime time, an Eagles team that the Falcons hasn't been able to outscore the past couple of years, this is your chance to change the narrative, and they need to come out and have a good showing, and not 17-14.
Yeah.
The Falcons need to come out and do like a 31-21 type of a game where their offense is clicking, and I don't know that they can do it, but they need to do it. They fall to 0-2, and it's time to start thinking about who. I think there's still a lot of football to be played.
Yeah, I know.
But it sets this when you have an ugly streak early.
Right.
That sets the stage for the mindset of the owner to start thinking about who's my next coach going to be.
Right.
It's always better to lose ugly games consecutively, toward the end of the year, because the owner by then has already kind of made a decision what he's going to do the next year.
Right.
You're in that phase in September and into October where the owner starts thinking, am I staying with this or am I not staying with this? And for a team that's struggling, by Halloween, the owner's made the decision as to whether or not there's going to be a change. And right now, based on what we've seen from the Falcons so far, you need those wins or you're going to have Arthur Blank come November beginning to commence that process of wondering who his next coach and GM are going to be.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that's pretty accurate, Mike. Again, put yourself in Arthur Blank's shoes. Last year was a disaster for the Falcons, and yeah, okay, it's injuries and all of that. Okay, and then, he's looking at it going, gosh, I got us a new stadium, right? He's invested in that. Okay, I've given Julio Jones money, Matt Ryan the money, Devontae Freeman the money, Grady Jarrett the money, all the guys that the coaches and the other people, the decision makers in the football part of the organization, all the things they've wanted, he's given them. And when the product doesn't look the way you want it to as an owner, you're right. I mean, they're going to be on the hot seat in a hurry if they don't turn this thing around. And it certainly was not a good look last week. It was poor on, really, like Dan Quinn said, all three phases. They got beaten special teams, defensively and offensively, and they got the big bad Eagles coming to town who didn't play their best game and got a win. And that's always a dangerous team where, we won, vibes are good, but yet we're focused because we didn't play our best game and we saw our mistakes on film, and that can be a scary formula for any team that has to deal with a talented team like the Eagles coming off that kind of victory.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.